Seeing Brock Lesnar perform his signature F5 has become a regular occurrence, but here are 10 instances where it absolutely shocked us. Brock Lesnar doesn't like people who don't follow the Sportster's YouTube channel. Avoid the wrath of his F5 by hitting the subscribe button now. The next big thing arrives. In the middle of an otherwise uneventful Raw match on March 18, 2002 between Al Snow, Maven, and Spike Dudley, Brock Lesnar made his WWE TV debut. While the three wrestlers were distracted battling each other, Lesnar suddenly showed up and entered the ring, much to the confusion of the ringside commentators, especially since he was escorted by Paul Heyman, who had been fired in storyline after Survivor Series 2001. After sneaking up on Snow, Brock gave him a devastating spinebuster on top of a metal trash can, and then stunned Maven with a then-unknown F5. But Lesnar wasn't finished yet. He then proceeded to toss Spike Dudley in the air like a ragdoll before powerbombing him so many times that it was a wonder he stayed in one piece. Heyman then entered the ring to raise his client's hand in the air in victory, to the shock and incredulity of everyone present and watching at home. The F5 may not have had a starring role in this particular attack, but it sure made a mark on the match, mentally as well as physically, in the case of Maven, and helped turn a forgettable match into a memorable debut for the next big thing. Surprise, brother! A few months after Hulk Hogan's second return to WWE, he was involved in a tag team match with The Rock against the Un-Americans, Lance Storm and Christian, on July 25, 2002. Although The Rock looked good at the beginning, the Un-Americans started having their way with him before too long, and they refused to let Hogan be tagged into the ring. Eventually, the future Hall of Famer made his entrance and began hulking up, and he used the moment to end the match via a leg drop on Christian. The bell rang and the crowd figured everything was over, but little did they know that the real action was just beginning. Brock Lesnar suddenly appeared, and it was clear he wasn't into respecting his elders. He instead struck Hogan in the back, grabbed him by what little was left of his hair, and lifted him up in front of a stunned crowd. After milking it for a few seconds, Lesnar then rocked the Hulkster's old man world with a powerful F5 that seemed to shake the entire arena. A grinning Lesnar quickly exited and the beatdown was over just like that. But he and Hogan's brief but terrifying feud was only beginning. Bottom to top. After defeating Bubba Ray Dudley, Booker T, Test, and Rob Van Dam to win King of the Ring, Brock Lesnar earned a shot at the WWE Undisputed Championship at SummerSlam 2002. His opponent for that match would be The Rock, which meant viewers were prepared for a whole lot of rock bottoms, as most thought the People's Champion would emerge victorious. However, in wrestling, things rarely seem to unfold as expected. On August 25, 2002, the two battled for a total of 16 minutes, which included Paul Heyman getting rock bottom through the announcer's table after repeatedly trying to interfere in the match. Lesnar and The Rock went back and forth in the ring while also trading a rock bottom each before the latter went in for the kill with one final attempt. However, Lesnar suddenly spun out of the finisher, turned his opponent around, and surprised him and everyone else in attendance with a powerful F5 to win the match and become the youngest ever WWE Undisputed Champion at the age of just 25. Brock would continue to own that record for a full 2 years until a 24-year-old phenom named Randy Orton won the title by defeating Chris Benoit at SummerSlam 2004. The heaviest heavyweight. When reigning champion Brock Lesnar and the enormous beast known as Big Show faced off at Survivor Series 2002 to fight for the WWE Championship, the big question wasn't who would walk away with the belt, it was, would Lesnar be able to F5 the biggest wrestler in the business? After all, the two had previously met in the ring a couple times in the weeks leading up to Survivor Series, and it almost always ended with Lesnar getting slammed. Paul Heyman not only explicitly told his client that he wouldn't be able to lift his massive opponent off the ground, but almost guaranteed Lesnar that he would lose the match and the belt if he accepted Big Show's challenge. Thankfully, it didn't take very long for all these questions to be answered. 3 minutes into the match, Lesnar lifted his massive opponent off the ground and spun his 500-pound body around like it was nothing. And the announcers absolutely lost it. Some double-crossing interference by Paul Heyman at the end of the bout would lead to Lesnar's first ever pinfall loss. But Big Brock would eventually get his revenge on Big Show, which came with numerous additional F5s along the way. You're out. By the time the 2003 Royal Rumble arrived, fans had already seen the F5 numerous times, but its true power and capabilities weren't fully realized until Brock Lesnar used it at the event. For the record, Lesnar drew number 29 prior to the brawl, meaning he was well rested when he entered, while numerous other wrestlers by comparison had already been battling for some time. After Lesnar survived a double-team effort by Team Angle members Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, who both tried to toss him from the ring, Lesnar launched the two wrestlers over the ropes and onto the arena floor. But he wasn't finished yet. As the recently eliminated wrestlers stood outside the ring looking on in disbelief, Matt Hardy tried to attack Brock from behind. Instead, Hardy was picked up, held in the air, and F5s completely out of the ring and directly on top of the aforementioned members of Team Angle. Although the F5 is notoriously tricky to execute, Lesnar delivered it here with astonishing ease on his way to victory at the Royal Rumble. By finally defeating The Undertaker to win the bout, Brock earned a shot to face Kurt Angle himself at WrestleMania 19, which he left carrying the belt. Let's take a break from these brutal F5s for a quick quiz question. When Brock Lesnar departed the WWE in 2004 to pursue a career in the NFL, which team eventually signed him? Hang out until the end for the answer. Rattling the Rattlesnake. There was very little overlap in the careers of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar, and this was no coincidence. When Lesnar arrived, the WWE made it clear that they were keen on pushing the unproven rookie, and Austin made it clear that he was not. Stone Cold was being primed for a feud with Lesnar in 2002, but the superstar reportedly vetoed any match that would result in him losing, and finally up and quit wrestling before his feud with Brock could be fully realized, citing nagging, long-term, and apparently serious injuries as the reasoning. However, Austin remained with the WWE in a non-wrestling role, and fans were at least given one gem involving him in the next big thing. Stone Cold was spontaneously named the special guest referee for a February 23, 2004 Raw match between Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff. And at one point he became distracted when both competitors were brawling outside of the ring. While Austin was busy trying to coax them back in, Lesnar crept into the ring and crouched behind the Texas Rattlesnake. As soon as Austin turned around, he walked right into Brock, who lifted him up and delivered a stunning F5. Adding insult to injury, Lesnar stole Austin's ATV shortly afterward. No regrets. No one is safe from the wrath of Brock Lesnar's F5, from the lowliest jobber to the head of the entire company. If you don't believe that, just look at the January 28, 2013 episode of Raw. During an on-air performance review, Vince McMahon confronted Paul Heyman about conspiring with Brad Maddox and The Shield and hiring the latter to beat up the former. And Heyman vehemently denied everything, even when secret footage was aired that showed the manager doing exactly that. Whoops. Having caught Heyman red-handed in a lie, McMahon was just about to fire him when Brock Lesnar's intro music suddenly began to play. As Brock made a surprising return to the WWE after quitting the previous year, he entered the ring and stood nose-to-nose with McMahon. Although Vince cautioned him not to do anything he might regret and Heyman pleaded with his former client to show restraint and leave the ring, Lesnar nevertheless picked Vince up and gave him a brutal F5 in the front of a screaming audience of thousands. This eventually set up a later bout between Heyman and McMahon, and eventually a Lesnar vs. Triple H rematch at WrestleMania 29, in which Triple H emerged victorious. Heavy lifting. One of the most impressive and difficult parts of executing the F5 is that once you get your opponent up on your shoulders in the fireman's carry, you still need to toss them in the air so their legs can make a complete 180-degree spin without taking your head off. For this reason, F5s are best performed on smaller wrestlers. Apparently, no one told this to Brock Lesnar. When the Beast Incarnate made his return to Raw on December 30th, 2013, he and Paul Heyman demanded a shot at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, even though he didn't deserve it. Regardless, he placed his demands and challenged anyone to stop him. With that, the music kicked in and out strolled Big Bad Mark Henry, full of confidence. However, Lesnar was even more confident and proceeded to put the beat down on Henry while throwing him through a barricade. Their scuffle eventually culminated in Brock picking up all 400 pounds of Mark and casually F5ing him right in front of the ringside announcer's table, which knocked him unconscious. If you heard a loud noise in the background following that F5, it was just the sound of 50,000 jaws simultaneously hitting the floor. Eat, sleep, beat the streak. We all knew The Undertaker's unprecedented streak of undefeated WrestleMania victories would someday end, but when it finally did, the sight was still completely shocking. Although there had been numerous close calls in the past, few fans thought the inevitable defeat would occur at WrestleMania 30, and even fewer thought it could possibly come courtesy of Brock Lesnar. After all, plenty of worthy wrestlers had attempted the impossible at previous WrestleMania events, and none had succeeded. Once the bell rang, the two wrestlers went back and forth, swapping blows and trading finishers. But Taker was moving noticeably slower throughout, and after 25 minutes and a third F5 from Lesnar, the dead man was finally pinned for his first loss in 22 matches. If viewers had any doubt that the result of the last F5 was shocking, they need only look at the face of an incredulous Undertaker as he sat on the canvas in defeat, as well as the expressions of the 75,000 fans in attendance. Some stood in silence, others openly wept, a few booed, and their reactions have since become an iconic sight that's constantly shown in highlight videos and immortalized in memes to this day. All that glitters. A day after winning the Universal Championship at Fastlane 2017, a recently returned Goldberg appeared on Raw and was suddenly interrupted by Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Remember, Goldberg and Lesnar had quite a feud going in 2003 and 2004, just prior to both wrestlers' departure from the WWE. They met at WrestleMania 20 on March 14, 2007, with Goldberg technically winning the match, but hardly anyone remembers the official result. That's because both departing wrestlers were relentlessly booed by the Madison Square Garden crowd throughout the match. And after Lesnar was finally pinned, guest referee Steve Austin ended up delivering a Stone Cold Stunner to each competitor. Anyway, fast forward back to 2017 when Goldberg and Lesnar met in the ring again, and Heyman claimed his client was only there to shake hands with the new champion prior to their upcoming match at WrestleMania 33. However, Goldberg rebuffed him after Heyman implied that Lesnar would win the upcoming bout and referred to Goldberg as Brock's bitch. In case anyone watching didn't believe that last part was true, Lesnar picked up his enormous foe and delivered a devastating F5 that left the big man stunned and laying on the canvas as Brock calmly exited. Although he was hampered by injuries suffered in a serious motorcycle accident, Brock Lesnar worked out for numerous NFL teams and was eventually signed by the Minnesota Vikings. However, after playing in several preseason games, Lesnar was cut on August 30th, 2004. Did we miss any memorable F5s? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like and share this video. For more wrestling highlights, lists, and nostalgia, follow TheSportster on YouTube.